Have you ever forgotten why you walked into a room? Or struggled to focus on a single task for more than a few minutes? You might be wondering if you're developing ADHD, or if something else entirely is happening in your body. The truth is, brain fog and attention problems can come from multiple sources, and one of the most overlooked culprits is perimenopause. If you're a woman in your 40s or early 50s, or even late 30s, the changes happening in your hormones right now could feel eerily similar to ADHD symptoms. And if you've never been diagnosed with ADHD before, it can be incredibly confusing to suddenly experience these struggles. So stick around as we dive deep into how to tell the difference between ADHD and perimenopause brain fog. Because understanding what's really happening is the first step to getting the right support. And if you find this helpful, please subscribe to the channel for more insights into women's health and cognitive wellness. Let's start with the basics. ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is a neurodevelopmental condition that you're born with. It's not something that suddenly appears when you hit 40. Your brain's neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine and norepinephrine, work differently than in non-ADHD brains. This affects how you process information, regulate attention, and manage impulses. If you have ADHD, you've likely noticed patterns your entire life. Maybe you were a daydreamer in school, or you struggled to finish projects, or you've always been impulsive with decisions and spending. These aren't new struggles for you. They're lifelong patterns. Perimenopause, on the other hand, is a temporary biological transition. It typically lasts anywhere from 4 to 10 years, and it marks the shift from your reproductive years into menopause. During this time, your estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuate wildly. These hormones don't just control your period. They influence your brain chemistry, your neurotransmitters, and your cognitive function. When estrogen dips, your dopamine and serotonin dip with it. When progesterone drops, your sleep quality suffers, which makes everything feel worse. So here's where it gets tricky. The brain fog from perimenopause can look a lot like ADHD symptoms. You might struggle to concentrate. You might feel scattered or forgetful. You might have trouble organizing your thoughts or completing tasks. You might feel restless or irritable. These are legitimate symptoms of perimenopause, not signs of a sudden ADHD diagnosis. The key difference is the timeline. With ADHD, these struggles have been part of your life for decades. With perimenopause brain fog, they typically emerge or worsen significantly in your 40s. Let's talk about memory specifically, because this is where perimenopause really shines as a culprit. ADHD affects working memory and executive function, which means you might struggle to hold information in your mind or organize complex tasks. But with perimenopause, the memory issues are often more about retrieval and focus. You might forget why you opened an app, or you might lose your train of thought mid-sentence. These aren't deep memory problems. They're attention and focus problems caused by hormonal fluctuation. The frustrating part is that they feel very real and very disorienting, even though they're temporary. Now let's discuss attention span and focus. With ADHD, your attention struggles are often selective. You might hyper-focus on things that genuinely interest you, losing track of time completely. But you'll also have profound difficulty focusing on things that don't trigger your interest or dopamine response, no matter how important they are. With perimenopause brain fog, your attention problems are usually more global. Everything feels harder to focus on, even things you normally love. You might sit down to read a favorite book and realize you've read the same paragraph 5 times without absorbing any of it. Sleep is absolutely critical here. Poor sleep is one of the biggest culprits behind perimenopausal brain fog, and it's also a symptom of ADHD, though for different reasons. In ADHD, sleep problems often stem from racing thoughts, difficulty winding down, or hyperfocus keeping you up at night. In perimenopause, sleep disruption is usually caused by hot flashes, night sweats, and hormonal fluctuations that mess with your circadian rhythm. If you're waking up drenched in sweat multiple times a night, your brain fog the next day isn't a sign of ADHD, it's a sign of sleep deprivation. And when you're sleep deprived, anyone's focus and memory suffer. Let's talk about emotional regulation, because this is another area where perimenopause and ADHD overlap. Both conditions can make you feel irritable, anxious, or emotionally reactive. With ADHD, emotional dysregulation is often tied to frustration about your own performance or struggles, or to the intensity of your emotions in general. You might feel things very deeply and react quickly. With perimenopause, mood changes are often more sudden and tied to your cycle. You might feel fine one day and inexplicably tearful the next. You might feel anxious without knowing why. These mood swings are often tied to where you are in your perimenopausal cycle. Here's something crucial that many women miss. You can have both ADHD and perimenopause at the same time. If you've had lifelong ADHD symptoms and you're now in your 40s, noticing they've gotten significantly worse, perimenopause might be amplifying your existing ADHD. Hormonal fluctuations can make ADHD symptoms more pronounced. This is especially true for dopamine-sensitive tasks. When estrogen drops, your dopamine regulation gets worse, which makes your ADHD feel more severe. So if you're suddenly struggling way more than you used to, even though you've always had attention issues, perimenopause might be the new variable in the equation. Let's discuss the timeline and onset more carefully. ADHD symptoms have been present since childhood or adolescence, though they might not have been recognized or diagnosed. You might not have gotten a diagnosis until adulthood, but looking back, you can see the patterns. You were the kid who couldn't sit still, or you were a daydreamer, or you were disorganized. Your parents might have struggled with similar issues. Perimenopause brain fog, by contrast, has a clear onset. It appears when your hormone levels start to shift, usually in your 40s. If you're 45 years old and you're experiencing these symptoms for the first time in your life, that's a strong indicator that perimenopause might be playing a role. The hyperactivity component is also worth examining. True ADHD, especially in women, often doesn't look like hyperactivity. It might look like restlessness, racing thoughts, fidgeting, or difficulty sitting still. Perimenopause can create a similar sense of restlessness, but it's often tied to anxiety rather than true hyperactivity. If you're feeling physically restless, that could be either condition. But if you're also experiencing hot flashes, night sweats, or a significant increase in anxiety specifically, perimenopause is a more likely culprit. Let's talk about the role of estrogen and dopamine more deeply, because this is where the neuroscience gets really interesting. Estrogen affects dopamine receptors in your brain. When estrogen is stable and consistent, your dopamine system works optimally. During perimenopause, estrogen is fluctuating dramatically. These fluctuations destabilize your dopamine, which directly impacts your focus, motivation, and executive function. This is why perimenopausal brain fog often feels worse at certain times of the month, or during certain phases of perimenopause. With ADHD, your dopamine dysregulation is consistent throughout your life. Your dopamine system doesn't work optimally, period. It's not that it's sometimes worse and sometimes better based on your hormone cycle. It's consistently different from the neurotypical pattern. Now here's where I want to encourage you to engage with this video. If you're finding these distinctions helpful, please like this video and let me know in the comments which of these symptoms resonates most with you. Are you experiencing brain fog for the first time? Or have you always struggled with focus? Your answer matters, and hearing from you helps me create more content that addresses real women's experiences. Let's talk about executive function, which is a huge part of ADHD. Executive function includes planning, organizing, prioritizing, and following through on tasks. ADHD brains struggle with executive function fundamentally. You might have dozens of projects started and none completed. You might have trouble breaking large tasks into smaller steps. You might forget steps in a process, even a process you've done 100 times. Perimenopause can affect executive function too, but it usually feels more like temporary overwhelm. You know how to organize a project, but right now everything feels like too much. You know the steps, but your brain is too foggy to execute them clearly. It's a performance issue, rather than a fundamental difference in how your brain is wired. Let's address impulsivity. ADHD often comes with impulsive decision-making, impulsive spending, impulsive interrupting. You say things without thinking them through. You make purchases without considering the consequences. With perimenopause, you might feel emotionally reactive, or make decisions based on how you're feeling in that moment. but it's usually tied to mood fluctuations rather than a consistent pattern of impulsivity throughout your life. If you're considering an ADHD diagnosis, your personal and family history matters enormously. Did your parents or siblings have ADHD? Were you a difficult child to parent? Did you struggle in school? Did teachers say you weren't living up to your potential? These are signs that ADHD might have been present all along. If your answer to all these questions is no, and your attention and focus problems emerged recently, perimenopause is a much more likely explanation. Let's talk about medication and treatment, because this changes significantly based on what you're actually dealing with. If you have ADHD, stimulant medication or other ADHD medications can be life-changing. They help regulate your dopamine and norepinephrine, which improves your focus and executive function. If your problem is perimenopause brain fog, stimulants might help temporarily, but they won't address the root cause. Hormone replacement therapy, lifestyle changes, and treating sleep issues will be more effective. And here's the kicker. Some women find that addressing their perimenopause symptoms with HRT actually improves their ADHD symptoms, especially if they had undiagnosed ADHD all along, and perimenopause was just making it worse. Let's discuss the importance of tracking and patterns. Start keeping a log of your symptoms. When do they happen? Do they correspond to your menstrual cycle? Do they happen at certain times of day? Do they get worse when you're not sleeping well? If your brain fog and attention problems correlate strongly with your menstrual cycle or with night sweats and hot flashes, perimenopause is more likely. If your symptoms are consistent throughout the month and throughout the year, ADHD is more likely. It's also worth considering your caffeine and stimulant use. Many women with undiagnosed ADHD self-medicate with caffeine. You might drink multiple cups of coffee throughout the day because you need the stimulation to focus. This is actually pretty common in ADHD. If you've always needed stimulants to function, that's a sign ADHD might have been there all along. If you're suddenly needing more caffeine than you used to, perimenopause might be lowering your natural dopamine levels. Let's talk about how to actually get evaluated. If you think you might have ADHD, you need to see a healthcare provider who specializes in ADHD diagnosis in adults, ideally in women. ADHD is often missed or misdiagnosed in women because the presentation can be different. Many women have primarily inattentive ADHD, rather than hyperactive ADHD, which is easier to miss. If you think you might have perimenopause, see your OBGYN or a women's health specialist. They can run tests to check your hormone levels and help you understand where you are in the perimenopausal transition. Here's the ideal scenario. You see both types of providers. Your ADHD specialist evaluates you for ADHD based on your lifelong patterns and history. Your women's health provider assesses your hormonal status and perimenopausal symptoms. Together, they can help you understand what's ADHD and what's perimenopause, and you can create a treatment plan that addresses both if necessary. This comprehensive approach gives you the best chance of actually feeling better. Let's discuss some practical strategies that can help, regardless of whether it's ADHD or perimenopause. Sleep is foundational. If you're not sleeping well, everything gets worse. Prioritize sleep hygiene. Keep your bedroom cool, because night sweats are exacerbated by warm temperatures. Avoid alcohol and caffeine in the evenings. Establish a consistent sleep schedule. If you're still not sleeping well, talk to your doctor about options. Movement and exercise help with both ADHD and perimenopause symptoms. Exercise increases dopamine, which helps with focus. It also helps regulate mood and improve sleep quality. Even a 20-minute walk can make a difference. Strength training is particularly beneficial because it helps with hormonal regulation. Eating balanced meals with protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates keeps your blood sugar stable, which helps with focus and mood. Certain foods and nutrients are particularly supportive during perimenopause, like foods rich in phytoestrogens and omega-3 fatty acids. Stress management is crucial. Chronic stress makes both ADHD and perimenopause worse. Meditation, deep breathing, journaling, or any practice that helps you feel calmer will improve your symptoms. This is not about fixing yourself. It's about supporting your brain and body through a challenging time. Environmental modifications help too. If you have ADHD, minimizing distractions, Using timers for tasks and breaking projects into smaller steps can dramatically improve your productivity. If you have perimenopause brain fog, similar strategies help. Write things down immediately so you don't forget them. Use your phone to set reminders. Give yourself grace when your brain isn't working at full capacity. Now let's talk about what you should not do. Don't dismiss your symptoms as just getting older. Yes, we all experience some cognitive changes as we age, but significant brain fog and attention problems aren't inevitable. Don't assume that if you're experiencing these symptoms, you must have ADHD. And don't assume that if you have ADHD, perimenopause isn't relevant to you. Avoid self-diagnosing based on social media or internet research. Talk to qualified healthcare providers. Here's something really empowering to remember. Whether you have ADHD or perimenopause brain fog or both, there are evidence-based treatments and strategies that can help. You don't have to just accept feeling scattered and forgetful. You deserve to feel cognitively clear and present in your life. Getting a proper diagnosis is the first step toward that clarity. If you're in perimenopause and you're struggling with brain fog, know that this is temporary. It will pass. Menopause is on the other side of this transition, and most women find that their cognitive function stabilizes once they're through perimenopause. If you have ADHD, know that a diagnosis and proper support can be transformative. Many women describe their first experience with ADHD treatment as life-changing. Suddenly, the things you've always struggled with become manageable. Let's circle back to the beginning. You came here wondering if you have ADHD or if perimenopause is causing your brain fog. The answer might be one, the other, or both. The key is to get properly evaluated so you know for sure. Pay attention to your timeline. Consider your personal history. Track your symptoms. See the right healthcare providers. And remember that whatever is happening, you're not broken, and you're not alone. Countless women are navigating this exact confusion right now. I hope this video has given you clarity and a framework for understanding what might be happening in your brain and body. If it has, please like and subscribe for more content about women's health and cognitive wellness. And I'd genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Have you experienced brain fog that you thought might be ADHD? Or are you in perimenopause and noticing cognitive changes? Your experiences matter, and your comments help build a community of women supporting each other through these transitions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.